So in less than 48 hours from right now, we could very well see a big change be implemented when it comes to Onyx, fundamentally speaking. And this is not according to me. This is even according to a post that Onyx made themselves, which I think could actually be a massive thing in regard to Onyx. And I'll explain what that is in today's video. Even though nothing I say is financial advice, I'm not telling anyone to do anything, and this is just my perspective. Now, if we take a look at it, Onyx recently said OIP 66 is now queued. What does that mean? OIP stands for Onyx Improvement Proposal. Now, what is this? They say that this is going to be executable in approximately 48 hours, but if we consider by the time I edit this video, make it and whatnot, it's going to be less than 48 hours, right? So besides that point, basically, OIP 66, this improvement proposal, is supposed to accelerate institutional adoption through Onyx Mesh while aligning incentives around the Onyx Layer 1. Why is this a big deal? Well, it's because they recently launched Onyx Mesh in collaboration with Chain. And if we think about it, what is Onyx Mesh? Just to give a quick recap, even though I already made a video on this, it's basically a banking/permission network that is built on top of the Onyx Layer 1. What this does is that it allows institutions to, let's say, still utilize the Onyx Layer 1, still utilize blockchain technology basically, but without having all of their information out there. So certain data, it stays with the institution, but other data that doesn't need to be that private, basically, they can go on the blockchain, right? On Onyx's Layer 1 blockchain. And what this does is that Onyx Mesh provides an environment for institutions out there to actually adopt blockchain technology, but not necessarily having all of the data out there. So it's a pretty big game changer, allowing sort of this hybrid system, allowing for some things to be private, and the other things that don't need to be private, they can utilize traditional blockchain technology when it comes to that. So it's a pretty massive thing. And basically, again, this improvement proposal is meant to accelerate institutional adoption through Onyx Mesh while aligning incentives around the Onyx Layer 1. So again, this OIP 66, as they like to call it, this is going to hopefully foster better adoption when it comes to Onyx Mesh. And they just launched Onyx Mesh, so it makes sense. Now, people like to say, well, how is this going to bring any sort of change? Well, again, I just mentioned it before. If, let's say, there's something being done to hopefully allow for better adoption or better notoriety when it comes to the Onyx Mesh, I think that's a really big thing, because Onyx Mesh is one of the most massive things they've done so far. Now, I think number one was launching their Layer 1 blockchain, but number two is probably Onyx Mesh. We got to think about this. It was built in collaboration with Chain. However, just for a quick background lesson, so to speak, Chain did rebrand to Onyx, but Chain as an entity is still thriving, apparently, and it did not too long ago fully upgrade to ISO 20022. So we think about it, Onyx Mesh was pretty revolutionary when it comes to Onyx. And I made a more in-depth video when it comes to that, but this has just been a more simple explanation. And I think more importantly though, this improvement proposal is going to bring just better changes overall when it comes to Onyx. So when people like to tell me, well, no one really cares about this because Onyx, it's still at around less than half a penny as of right now. So if we think about it, it's really not doing good. But at the same time as well, we have to consider the strides they're making fundamentally. Keep in mind, if we consider the current market cap as of right now, when it comes to Onyx, it's around 150 million. Last year at its peak, it was around 6 times higher. So last year it was around 6 times more at around $1 billion in terms of market cap. But we have to consider this. Onyx as of right now, in my opinion, is actually way better than before. And yet people are still overlooking all of this. But I don't want to though, because I understand the magnitude of something like Onyx Mesh. And I also understand that the Onyx Layer 1, which the mainnet launched this year, it's really massive. Those are the two biggest things that has happened to Onyx so far. So when people like to diminish this, I just kind of don't get it, because I think personally to myself, had this happened last year or had this happened 2 years ago, this would have been a completely different story. But because we're not doing good as of right now, we're in a bear market, arguably, this is oftentimes overlooked. But I don't want to overlook it, because especially with Onyx being this low and yet having this much of an improvement, I just don't want to ignore it personally. I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but that's just my mindset as of right now. If we take a look at, let's say in the case of Onyx Mesh, why could this be fantastic? Let's think about this. Now, institutions have a way to actually utilize Onyx without having to deal with some of the nonsense. Because if, let's say, there was no Onyx mesh, it would be pretty difficult for an institution to fully want to adopt something like the Onyx Layer 1 because they just simply don't want all of their information out there. But because there's Onyx mesh, what that does is that it allows for these institutions to still use traditional blockchain technology, so to speak, but not necessarily having to deal with the lack of privacy. So that's pretty fantastic. So again, some things stay off the chain in terms of the data, some things stay on chain. So it creates this hybrid system where they can still adopt blockchain technology, but having that layer of privacy for some of its aspects. So that's pretty cool. It's like, imagine, right? Let's say I'm a bank or an institution. Let's say I want to use traditional blockchain technology to improve the business. But let's say I don't want all of my information out there. What's sort of the happy balance or happy medium in between? That's something like Onyx Mesh because, okay, I can choose to have certain things stay private, but I can have other things that don't need to be private to utilize that blockchain technology. So it's pretty cool, I think, personally. It's kind of like a convertible. I can open the top when I want to, but I can close it when I don't want to, maybe when it's raining or something like that. It's kind of like Onyx Mesh. It's kind of like the convertible, but for, I guess, the world of global trade and finance. That's just the way to take a look at it. And not to mention as well, if we take a look at Onyx, people like to tell me that, oh, this is not going to improve the utility when it comes to Onyx, but it actually does, because if Onyx Mesh does, for whatever reason, gain a lot of traction or adoption, it's actually going to slowly but surely reduce the supply of Onyx. I'm not joking, because allegedly, as of right now, 10% of gas fees when it comes to their layer 1 blockchain is burned, right? And Onyx is used for gas fees on there. So in theory, if Onyx Mesh has better adoption, and imagine, if more and more transactions start happening on the Onyx Layer 1 and more of Onyx is being burned as a result of that, that's gonna, of course, create this amazing deflationary pressure when it comes to Onyx, lowering the supply slowly but surely and hypothetically making it a little bit more scarce. So that's not a bad thing. I think if anything, this is actually a pretty smart move when it comes to Onyx, even thinking about something like Onyx Mesh in the first place, and also ultimately the Onyx Layer 1. And just like I mentioned in my previous video, it seems like Onyx has stopped mentioning their layer 1 as Goliath, which makes sense because previously in the past, they kept referring to it as Goliath. But as of right now, I just don't see it anymore. So I think they're trying to make things a little bit more cohesive and referring it to actually the Onyx layer 1, which just makes a lot more sense. It's going to simplify things a lot better. So I think it's fantastic. However, this video has just been real quick to showcase the recent improvement proposal that was basically greenlit because this was voted on by the community, basically. And they voted to actually have this go through, right? The Onyx Improvement Proposal 66, which could very well be executable in approximately 48 hours, but less than 48 hours, obviously, by the time I upload this video. But besides that, this improvement proposal does accelerate institutional adoption through Onyx Mesh while aligning incentives around the Onyx Layer 1. So I think it's pretty cool, but nonetheless, I just want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a very amazing day.